Welcome to Learning React with me. Today, let's talk about another lifecycle hook in React, which is componentDidUpdate. This method is invoked immediately after an update occurs. However, this method is not invoked during the initial render of a component because we have already seen in our previous video that there is another hook called componentDidMount which takes care of the initial render. So we generally use the componentDidUpdate hook to make changes to the DOM or to make network requests based on the user interaction and inputs. However, this method would be called infinitely if you try to update the state without specifying the condition which tells React when to execute the lines of code in the componentDidUpdate method. So the syntax looks like this. It takes three parameters: previous props, previous state, and snapshot. All these parameters are optional though. So let us see these parameters one by one with an example. I'm using the same component which we used in our previous video where we called a user's API and updated our user's state with the response returned by the API. We are sending this response in the form of props to the user list component. So this is how our UI looks like. So we are displaying all the list of users that was returned by the API. Now let's talk about componentDidUpdate. I have already added a method called componentDidUpdate with three parameters: previous props, previous state, and snapshot. First, let's look at previous state. Previous state will show the previous values the state had before it was updated. For example, we have a users array which was initially empty. When we called the API in componentDidMount, we are setting the user state using setState method. So at this point of time, componentDidUpdate will be invoked because we are updating the state of this component. In that case, we can see what was the previous value and what is the current value of the user's array. So previous value is displayed by the previous state and current value is displayed using this dot state. Let me go to the UI and let's refresh. So as you can see in the inspect, we have two console logs. Once the component didUpdate is called, we have a parent previous state. I'm considering this as a parent component. So here the previous state is users is an empty array and text is also an empty string because that was the first time we rendered the component. And once we call the API, users array was updated with the values from the API, and that's the reason we see users array with some data. And text, we haven't changed anything, so the text is not updated. Let me type something, and when I come out, you can see another console log here. So here the previous value, the user state was array with 10 records and text was initially empty. And when I typed this, the state was updated with this value, and users, we didn't make any change, so it was the same. So this is how a previous state can be used to see the previous values of the state and to perform an action based on the previous and current values. There is one point that we need to remember. For example, if I want to use a set state in componentDidMount, so I have this set state method where we are updating the text property of the state to updated text. So let's move to the UI and we see an error: maximum update depth exceeded. This is because once I update the once I type something or once the user's array is updated, componentDidMount didUpdate will be invoked. So in the componentDidUpdate, we are updating the state again. That means component did update will get called again, and in the second component did update call as well, we are updating the text again. So it will continuously update and it will continuously invoke this component did update method, and this will lead to stack overflow, and which is the reason why we are seeing this error. So it is always important to remember that we have to specify some condition which will tell React when to stop updating the state and when to update the state. So that is where we can use previous state parameter. So what I'm saying here is, if previous state dot text and the current state dot text are equal, do not update it, because there is no need to update when the values are same, right? So only if the previous text, in our case it was initially empty, and in another case when we typed something it was updating with some value, only in that case when the previous value and the current value are not matching, I want this state to be updated to this text which I specified here. So let me go to the UI again. Let me refresh. So now we don't see any error. Initially the text state is empty. Now I'm typing something, maybe let's say hello, and when I come out of this, the state gets updated. So this is the initial value which was empty, and when I typed hello it got updated to hello. And why did we see this component did update again? That is because when we say hello, this condition is true. That means empty string and hello are not matching. Then this line of code gets executed where we are updating the text to updated text. So now the components text previous value was hello and the current value is updated text. Now again we'll see component did update because we updated the state by updating this value. So again it will trigger. Now in this case the previous value will be updated text and the current value will also be updated text, and this is exactly where this condition fails and the component stops updating the text property. So it is always important to specify a condition when you want to use set state inside component did update. Otherwise it would go into an infinite loop and it would end up in an error. Now let's talk about snapshot. There is another method called getSnapshot before update, which is invoked before the recent update is rendered onto the DOM, so that we can capture information like the scroll position before the DOM is completely changed. It takes previous props and previous state as parameters, and based on the checks we specify, it would return some value. This value can be accessed in component did update using snapshot parameter. So in this example I just commented the previous code which shows previous state functionality, and I just added a console log to show the value of snapshot. So we have a method called getSnapshot before update, and I'm just comparing if the previous state.text and the current state.text are equal or not. If it is equal, I'm returning true, otherwise I'm returning false. So let's see how this is rendered onto the DOM. Okay, let me refresh. And this is my initial snapshot. So I have console logged to see what is the previous state and current state. So the previous state is we haven't made any changes. So the previous state, the user's array was empty and the text was also empty, and once we call the component did mount, the API call updated the user's array. So we see the current state using this dot state. So this is the snapshot, and once this snapshot is captured, then the component did update method will be called, and we specified a condition where we checked if this text and the previous text are equal or not. In this case we didn't make any change to the text, so this condition gets satisfied and hence we are returning true, and this is captured in component did update. And now I will make some change. Let me clear this and I will type something, maybe hello. So in the snapshot it captured the previous state which was empty and the current state which is hello, and then it called the component did update which accessed the value of the snapshot. Here it is false because these two texts are not matching. So if you want to capture something before the DOM is actually updated, here we didn't do anything which updates the DOM, but usually if you have this list and you want to enable the scroll height, so initially since we have only 10 records we don't need any scroll bar here, but as the list continues, as we add the new items, we may want to adjust the scroll height. So based on the values, we can perform a check here before the DOM is actually updated, because we want the scroll height before the DOM is updated, right? So we'll capture that scroll height in this method and we'll send some value, maybe the scroll height value, to this component did update, and we would increase the height by maybe 500 pixel or something like that here based on the snapshot. So if we do not specify this method, what happens? Let me comment this and let's go back to our UI. Now if you observe the console, the snapshot is undefined. So only when you specify get snapshot before update, we will be able to capture the snapshot before the DOM is completely updated, before there are any potential changes. If we want to capture something, we have to make use of this method, and the value returned by this method will be accessed using a snapshot parameter. Finally, let's talk about previous props. So to show how previous props works, I have created a child component. So this is nothing but I just have a text which says child component, and I have added a component did update method, and I am using only one prop parameter here. As I mentioned earlier, these parameters are optional, so to demonstrate previous props I am using only previous props parameter here. This would display what are the previous props that are passed to this child component and what are the current props that are passed to this child component. And I'm calling this child component in the parent component, which is app component. So here this would take text of the state as a prop, and if we move to the UI, so this is the message from the child component. Let me update this. Okay, let me refresh this so that we can see the initial values. So first constructor is called, then the UI is rendered, and then we call the component did mount of the parent component, and then the UI is rendered because we updated the API, users state using API. And now if you look at this child previous props, initially the text property is empty, and even the current property is also empty because we didn't make any changes. Now let me say hello. So now if you observe, the previous property value is text and the current property value is hello. So previous props is similar to previous state. The only difference is we talk about properties here instead of the state. So if there is any change in the data sent from parent to the child component, that can be tracked using previous props in the component did update of the child component. So this is how component did update works in the life cycle of a React component. We have seen in detail about each and every property that component did update takes, and we have also seen the get snapshot before update as well, which would give us access to the snapshot before the DOM is completely updated. So I hope you understood this concept, and please like, share and subscribe to InterviewPro. Thank you.